The road that leads to the University of Bangui, the Central African Republic, CAR, you'd soon find a banner with a bold inscription. Here, university lecturers are on strike. First it was 3 days, and then 8, and now a third stage of 21 days, paralyzing the functions of the university. The consequences of the teachers' strike on educational activities are quite serious for the moment, and that's because there has been a halt to teaching for more than a month, and the consequences are that there will be a great delay in finalizing teaching for the 2020 to 2021 academic year. Negotiations are currently underway between the authorities and the teachers' union, but pending the outcome, there are no classes at the University of Bangui, and students are paying the price. We demand from the government the improvement of our working conditions. Our working conditions on the campus of the University of Bangui is poor, and by improvement of working conditions we mean the increase of our salaries. For these ones here, the most crucial thing is the increase of the vacation fees. Currently, an hour goes for around $8 to $9, and there is a question of doubling it while waiting for the regularization of other conditions.
The French military finally called it a quit in the battled northern region of Timbuktu. The French officers handed over the keys to a military base in the Malian city of Timbuktu on Tuesday after nearly 9-year deployment. The ceremony took place near the city's airport, with the Malian army officers, officials from the local government and the United Nations attending. The French flag was lowered and the Malian flag raised in its place on the base, where a force of about 150 soldiers have remained after parade began withdrawing troops, having liberated the city from Islamists in 2013. French President Macron is expected in Mali next week for a show of solidarity with the Malian government in the fight against jihadists. Barrow began withdrawing his soldiers in Mali and is due to fall to about 3,000 troops by next year. The party of Gambia's opposition leader Ousseynou Dabo announced Tuesday that it had asked the Supreme Court to annul the proclaimed re-election of the incumbent Adama Barrow in the presidential election, accusing him of multiple irregularities. Adama Barrow was declared winner by Electoral Commission of the presidential election on December 4 with about 53% of the vote against about 27% of the main opposition, Ousseynou Dabo. Dabo's party accuses Mr. Barrow and his supporters of having distributed money and gifts in various villages. It further claimed that Barrow's party, the National People's Party, had infiltrated the Electoral Commission. It also alleged that non-Gambians participated in the election, as well as various irregularities in the voting and counting process.
Libya's oil and gas minister has expressed hopes of a promising future for his country, pointing to large oil and gas reserves that he suggested could generate enormous wealth for the North African nation. Speaking in the capital Tripoli on Tuesday, Mohamed Aoun said oil revenues, which constitute 95% of Libya's income, should be invested in infrastructure, city development, health and education. Libya has reserves of about 48 billion barrels of crude oil. The future of Libya in oil is a promising one. We have many oil and gas discoveries and can be developed.
مستقبل ليبيا في النفط يعتبر مستقبل واعد لدينا العديد من
And it is possible to open the door to foreign investments, joint investments, and the private sector of the Libyan state.
الخارجية والاستثمارات المشتركة وللقطاع الخاص في الدولة الليبية.
Noting the International Energy Agency's plans to drastically reduce oil consumption and carbon emissions in the next decades, Aoun stressed that there was pressure on Libya to work on large projects. We aspire and try to introduce the private sector in the field of oil and gas, considering that it is a promising one, as there is a pioneering experience in several countries in this field that has proven that the private sector can bear the burdens of such responsibilities, given that the technology is available and the Libyan competencies are present. Libya's oil production is currently estimated to be at about 1.3 million barrels per day, and it is projected to increase to 1.8 million barrels per day in 2022.
determine whether he is fit to attend.
A court in South Africa determined this Wednesday the return to jail of former President Jacob Zuma.
Which is always a bit of an awkward time.
The decision invalidates a previous decision to free Zuma on parole on medical grounds. The 79-year-old former president was sentenced to 15 months in prison for having repeatedly refused to appear before an inquiry commission investigating corruption during his time in office. Zuma's incarceration in July sparked a wave of unprecedented violence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and Johannesburg. The former president was freed on September the 5th on medical grounds. The latest court decision can be appealed by the former president.